welcome back to the Rise and Align podcast, where we talk about all things high vibrational. We are your hosts. My name is Halie.
And I'm Demi. Today we are having an episode on aligned advice. So I have a friend who started the podcast called Two Hot Takes. Her name is Morgan, and she does it with her boyfriend. And then I know they have a couple other friends and different guests on the show. What they do is they look at Reddit posts and then they react and just share their opinions on it. And they pull up some crazy Reddit posts. So I was watching their podcast and I was like, it would be so great to do an episode on aligned advice to not only try to help the people who are posting on there, but also people who may be in similar circumstances, and also for the purpose of entertainment, because some of the stories on Reddit are crazy. So with no further ado, we'll just read some stories to you and give our advice from a spiritual standpoint, kind of what source perspective would be, or what Abraham Hicks would say about the situation. So the first one is my 27 female boyfriend, 27 male of 2 years, has given me the ick one too many times. Didn't think the ick was a real phenomenon, but I think I've experienced it, because after I've discovered these 4 traits of my boyfriend, I cannot feel attraction anymore. Finding out he straight up doesn't use soap and can't be bothered too consistently. The guy just uses water in the shower. We've talked about it. I've bought him soap. He uses it for 2 weeks and then stops. He smells. I bring it up. He resents me for babying him, but bro, I'm asking you to use soap. It's very basic. I was forgiving of the smell for 2 years because he does have a chronic disorder, which results in body odor. However, I found out about the soap 3 months ago, and I just thought, wow, that's unforgivable. The whole time I thought he was trying hard to smell good and still couldn't, and it wasn't his fault. He otherwise doesn't do anything else for it, like scented lotion or body spray, and I'm not going to ask at this point, lol. Number 2, he keeps a toothbrush covered in giant globs of old toothpaste, black with mold, and uses it. He won't clean it, touches my toothbrush with it, and again, resents me for reminding him. It's the resentment that really compounds it for me. Ugh. Number 3, sometimes wears outfits I feel like I have to mentally prepare myself for, cannot dress himself. I love personal style and he has nice clothes, but my guy just picks random things off the floor and refuses to donate his young teenage clothes and wears random assortments of half dirty clothes. But he dressed wonderfully for our dating phase, just stopped, and acts resentful when I give him suggestions or try to organize his clothes. Number 4, I found out he wasn't very feminist as he advertised in the beginning of our relationship. In general, his views on equality are very superficial and for his own comfort, for white man guilt. He told me he won't eat Indian food because it's appropriating the culture. WTF does that mean? That was recent, but then he claims to be too logical to do basic domestic chores, which I discovered after moving in a year ago. Prior to that, he only speed cleaned before I came to his apartment. So that also felt super manipulative because I thought he was a clean person. But I never inspected the toothbrush or closet, I guess, lol. And when I try to show him the way of domestic chores, he just resents me. I've done everything I could to be encouraging and kind too, but the resentment is still horrible. The resentment is probably the worst issue with his lack of actual feminist values, because I have taught men who were allies trying to better themselves because they weren't taught to clean, and they learned from me and we moved on. But this guy won't do that. And after finding out the soap thing, I lost all hope he will actually ever learn. Ugh, just gross.
Immediately no.
Yes, immediately no. Okay, if we're being serious about this, in general, if a person lacks personal hygiene and kindness, they are lacking self-love. If that person cannot even do so much as clean their toothbrush or their body, that is the absolute bare minimum you can do to take care of yourself. Mm-hmm. And that's such a lack of self-love. And if they don't love themselves enough to wash themselves, then they are not ready to be in a relationship. I can't believe that she's been in a relationship with this person for 2 years at the age of 27.
Oh my god.
27 and you don't wash yourself or brush your teeth.
Mm-hmm. That's crazy. I can see it from two different perspectives. To an extent, if you focus on the negative aspects of someone, like that's what you're going to bring more of out of them. Like if they have potential and they have good qualities that are worth, continuing to be around them and to grow those qualities, like then continue to focus on those aspects of them and those will grow. And by focusing on the negative aspects, like of course you're gonna make that more
prominent.
Like, yes. Yeah. But when it comes to something like that, I totally agree with what you had said. And I also feel like if you're surrounding yourself with someone like that, that's only, you're going to bring more of that kind of energy into your life. Like if you're high value, you want to be around high value people and not settle for less. Like, no.
Yeah, absolutely. I also think that our partners and our reality in general reflect our own vibration. So I would definitely one, leave him, and two, maybe take a look at how much you love yourself and value yourself. Because if you really do, you don't want to be with somebody who doesn't even take care of themselves. That's a huge ick. There are definitely icks I think that you can look past, as long as you stay focused on the good qualities and if the person has enough of those. But in this case, it's no, absolute deal breaker. Way too much. It's unhealthy.
Agreed. I think that there are some icks that are just kind of funny, cute, and those are fine, but this is a genuine ick. It is.
It's literally gross.
Yeah.
it's not just an ick. This is not even what that word means.
Yes. It's beyond.
Yeah, it is beyond. Okay. Do you want to read the next one?
Sure. All right. How is this set up? Do I just pick a tab or is this?
So it's on it already. So you just scroll down as you read.
Okay. So the next one we have my boyfriend.
If it says number and F or M, it's that age and female or male.
They just have it laid out weird. So my must be the 25-year-old female, and then boyfriend 25-year-old male of 12 years has told me he's had a baby. How do I get over this? I've been with my boyfriend since we were both 13. I always imagined we would be together forever. I've only slept with him. He's the only boyfriend I've ever had. I've given up so much for him. I didn't pursue my chosen career and go to uni as it would have meant moving away from him. I passed up the opportunity to move abroad with my family, and I have now no family living in this country. I passed up going traveling and nights out with friends. We own a house together. We split the mortgage, but I put the full $10,000 deposit down as I am in a financially better position than him. I always envisioned growing old with him, spending my life with him, having kids with him. We briefly broke up in December / early January for a few weeks after an argument. He went out and slept with somebody else but didn't tell me. We just got back together and nothing was said. Yesterday, he speaks to me very upset and tells me that in September, he'd had a baby girl with a woman he had a one-night stand with. I asked why he didn't tell me sooner, and he said because he doubted the child was his and he wanted to block it all out. So he was ignoring the girl. But the girl contacted his mother, and his mother had a grandparent DNA test done and proved she was the grandmother. Ever since, his mom has been arguing with him about being involved, as she sees the baby every weekend and telling him he needs to tell me. He only told me because his mom said if he didn't, she would. I don't know how to handle this. Boyfriend is crying, saying he was trapped, that the girl told him she was on contraceptives and was allergic to condoms. He's saying he's not ready and he doesn't want to lose me and is making threats on himself if I leave. I don't know what to do. Do I forget these past 12 years and all I've ever known and move on, or do I forgive him and try to make this work? So she added an edit. She said, I did message the girl, probably against any better judgment, and asked how we could move forward and sent her my best wishes. She just said that she doesn't care if he does or doesn't want to be involved and that the door is open, but she's glad his family is involved. Then she blocked me. I don't want a stepchild at all. I don't even want a child of my own for at least another 5 years. I asked him how we would move on from this, and he said, we will just pretend the child doesn't exist and go about our lives, which disgusted me, but I never thought he was the type of coward to abandon an innocent child. I don't want to be seen as enabling him to do that. I truly believe even if I was out of his life, he wouldn't see the child, and with us still together in that situation, I'd be seen as the evil one and like I somehow condone his actions. I envisioned him as a strong man of good character, and the fact he doesn't want involvement with the child and keeps referring to the baby as it, and he even blocked his mom off of everything because she's seeing the baby and he doesn't want her to, makes me look at him in a different cowardly light and is giving me the ick. If he had told me when he found out that he'd got a girl pregnant, but they needed DNA, then got a DNA when baby was born, and he'd stuck by the kid, I don't think I'd even be asking this question. I'd be upset, not wanting to be a step parent, and I doubt I would be involved for a few years, but I'd have supported him and accepted his mistake. The way he's gone about it has ruined everything. If he truly loved me and cared about me, he would have told me from day one.
First of all, yeah, he was completely dishonest. Second of all, so earlier I read this post and I was like, oh, this is a good one. But what I didn't think about was she said they broke up in December/January.
Mm-hmm.
Now, unless this baby was born early, most people who haven't had a baby yet don't know that you're actually pregnant for 40 weeks, which would make it 10 months, which would mean that that baby wouldn't even be due until October if he were telling the truth. Mm-hmm. So I'm starting to wonder, what did he just cheat on her? Like, were they even actually broken up at the time? Mm-hmm. Like, is that why he didn't tell her? And then my personal opinion on the situation is like, do you really want to be with somebody who's dishonest and who would abandon their child and like block their own mom for doing the right thing? Like, he just seems like a coward. And then another huge red flag was that she's been with him for, what was it, 12 years, mm-hmm. and she's more financially well off, and she put the down payment on the house. Like, he's not a man in his masculine mm-hmm. energy in any way. He's mm-hmm. a coward. She gave up so much for him. It sounds like a completely codependent relationship. Like, she needs to drop him and go live her life mm-hmm. for herself.
Agreed. I feel like I don't know that I understand like what value he's bringing to the table, you know? And I think that it's super important to create balance in a relationship by having a balance between the masculine and feminine energies. And that's obviously not clear. He's operating out of wounded masculine, I would say. And I think that it probably would have been beneficial for them to take a break, but to find themselves, not to immediately have a one-night stand with someone.
No, 100%. Stand, like 12 years is a long time, and especially when those are like, I know they're not your formative years, but in a way they're your like adult formative years. So like you become really emotionally bonded with someone during that time in your life, and you don't know anything otherwise. Like, that's the only boyfriend she's ever had. That's the only person she slept with. Mm-hmm. I understand not wanting to like lose the person who you see as family and feel comfortable with and like saw a future with. She can and will do so much better without him, mm-hmm. and she gave up so much of what she wanted to be with him, which is never right at any age.
Right. And she has so many amazing like dreams and things that she would love to do, and I think, you know, whether or not they're still in this relationship or not, I don't think that they should be. They could explore and adventure and find themselves and find someone who values them, who shows up in that masculine energy, who is honest, trustworthy, has the core values that you look for in someone. If someone's lacking the core values that you need or want in a relationship, that is a deal breaker, I think. And I also think that the universe will continue to bring forward situations like this if you're not meant to be with someone.
Yep.
It's kind of like a way of the universe telling you that they're not meant for you.
Yep. This isn't right. Completely agree. And she also mentioned possibly having children with him. You do not want to have a child with somebody who will not take responsibility for their child. That is the biggest red flag.
Right. And I think being together so long, like you had said, it being so bonded that, you know, it might be hard to see things clearly. And if she takes time for herself, she'll realize what she really wants, and that she wants a dad that is going to be there, who isn't acting like a coward. And you know, she'd have to play dad, she'd have to be in her masculine
which
energy.
It sounds like she already kind of is, you know, which is just not where any woman really wants to be.
Right.
Yeah. Okay. My wife, 34, female, is constantly falling apart, and I, 30 male, can't take it anymore. Okay, so for context, my wife, 34, and I, 30 male, have not had a good past few years. Relationship-wise, we're fine. I mean, life stuff. Just in the past 6 months, here's what we've been dealing with, / I've been dealing with. Our house was destroyed due to a slow leak in the plumbing, causing rot and mold in the floors and walls. Reconstruction, all coordinated by me, and most work, except structural work, done myself, including fighting with the insurance company. But it is almost complete. We've been staying with my parents since it happened. Our septic system failed last year. We found out by pure chance that it was the previous homeowner was aware and disguised the issue when it was for sale. We went through a month of meeting with attorneys to find out we were 2 months past the 3-year statute of limitations to sue. Due to site conditions, repairs are complicated and will cost $50,000 or more. I rented a mini excavator, spent a day knee-deep in sewage, and made some temporary repairs for now. She hated one of our cats because she, the cat, was anxious or would occasionally pee places, so she freaked out, wanted to rehome her, and didn't do anything about it but complain. So I had to do it. I found her a new home with a family close by, and she's thriving. Our now 18-month-old son has severe eczema and is constantly itchy and uncomfortable, which Metaphysical Anatomy says is frustration. It got worse a few months ago, and after weeks of talking but not doing anything, I finally had to take control and call around, set my son up with a specialist. He's on a new skin regimen, and his symptoms are markedly improved. Okay, edit. That's the last 6 months. Over the past 2 years, we've had countless issues with the house and our wedding being canceled because of COVID, etc. Meanwhile, I'm trying to run and build a 3-year-old business, remodel our whole house myself. Last week, my dad died very suddenly. He was a great man, and the loss hit me heavily. To add to my plate, he had his own business, which I now have to take on and either take ownership of or bring to a close. My wife has a 0 stress tolerance. She's smart, beautiful, capable, but just so easily overwhelmed. I'm constantly talking to her like a child, coddling her, and try to keep her head above water. She'll snap over the smallest thing. Last night, she screamed and started slamming Tupperware on the counter because the lids wouldn't fit in the cabinet. I have encouraged her multiple times to go to therapy to work through some of these feelings and learn some stress management skills. She went 2 or 3 times a few months ago, but never went back. A few weeks ago, I sent her and her best friend on an all-expenses paid weekend away to a resort so she could decompress. I'm not a wealthy man. I run a sustainability and gardening company, so this was a big gesture. It helped for about a week. In the 1 week between my dad getting sick, passing, and the funeral, she was great. Right where I needed her, picked up and dropped off the baby from daycare right by my side, comforting and accommodating. But it didn't last long. I can't even properly grieve my father because less than 3 days after the funeral, we're right back to me having to put on a strong face and support her, crying because she's overwhelmed when, for once, I'm the one who needs support and she can't provide it. I don't understand how she can be so overwhelmed by her tasks around the house. Laundry, dinner, making sure we have diapers and wipes. Our baby is in daycare 5 days a week. When we're home, I'm more engaged with him than she is. I could take all of her duties without flinching. Last night, after the Tupperware tantrum, she was screaming at our 18-month-old for trying to climb on her. He just wanted to be held. He just wanted mama's attention. but she can't look away from TikTok for more than 15 seconds. I picked him up, sat on my lap while we watched TV, and he stayed calmly cuddling for 15 to 20 minutes. Edit, tantrums, breakdowns, yelling at our son like this are fairly common occurrences, 1 to 3 times a month. I'm at my wit's end. I don't know what to do. Part of me wants a divorce. At least then I'd only have one baby to take care of. I can't be the sole pillar of strength for this family anymore. It's breaking me. I don't really want to divorce her. I'll go through whatever needs to be done to help her. I do love her so much. It's just that I'm at this point. She does work. She's an academic advisor at a college, union-backed 9-to-5 job. Someone please share an experience. I need an outside perspective. Am I expecting too much of her? Am I being insensitive? It feels unfair, the burden I have to carry to keep her head above water. I want to be a loving, supportive husband, and I feel I have done a lot to be one, but I don't know what to do anymore. I can't take this.
So, does she work 40 hours a week and take care of the whole house?
It sounds like it.
Because at first it sounded like she was just taking care of the house.
Yeah, at first it sounded like she was just a stay-at-home mom, and then the edit says that she works. She's an academic advisor at a college that's a 9-to-5 desk job.
Yeah. So I would probably make a few assumptions. One, she's very like disconnected and ungrounded and probably dissociating. She's probably really, really unhappy.
Yeah.
But she needs, it comes down to like you can't help someone who doesn't want to help themselves.
Yep.
She has to figure out like what's making her so unhappy. Is it the relationship? Is she not happy? Is it her job? Or, what is it that's making her so unhappy? Postpartum depression is also a thing. Like there's so many things that go into it, but she's obviously mentally struggling. And I think that he's, for the most part, it seems like done what he can do. He does seem like he's operating from his masculine energy. And I think that the feminine energy is supposed to be there to support and offer like nurturement and stuff, especially when they're going through something. Like that's what they look for in a woman, I think. But it's also women, their nervous systems are not as strong as men. So it would make sense to me that maybe she is falling apart because of a 40-hour-a-week job and having to take care of the house. And she may not be coming up with the solutions for the problems that they're facing, but she's still having to go through that as well. Like that's a lot of traumatic experiences to happen all at once.
I was thinking that too, like all of those things he was naming would also take a toll on her. And like if she's working, does she contribute financially too? In which case it's her problem too, And then the baby's only 18 months old, so definitely postpartum could be involved. But also as a mother, like being away from your baby for 5 days a week, 9 to 5 is a lot. Like even just as a woman, like that's a lot for a woman to be working, but it's even more for a new mother to be away from their baby. Like that would stress me out incredibly. She probably needs to work less and she probably needs to go to therapy. I feel like people who are easily angered and like doing things like scrolling on TikTok all the time and just like checked out are dealing with a lot of depression and sometimes anxiety as well. Like I definitely think that therapy she could benefit from it, as they probably could as a couple as well, because it seems like he's only seeing his side and doesn't understand why she's acting like this. And maybe prior to all this happening it wasn't that way.
Right. And I wonder if they've had honest conversations about why she feels that way or why she's acting that way, and maybe an environment like therapy would be a more safe environment for her to feel like she can share those things.
I agree.
But maybe she does need to work less, and then they don't have to pay for a nanny, and
or daycare 5 days a week. That's really expensive. It can be thousands of dollars. So it might be financially better for her to be at home even. But yeah, I definitely think that honest communication makes such a massive difference in relationships, and I think that people sometimes forget to do that, or feel afraid to be vulnerable, especially when people are going through hard things. I also do think from his perspective it seems that she's incredibly like emotionally reliant on him, and that is really codependent, not the healthiest thing either. He shouldn't be the one always making all of the effort, and he shouldn't be responsible for making her happy when he's going through something so difficult.
Right.
Yeah.
And obviously I think that stems from her depression or anxiety, but that still isn't like an excuse of it being okay necessarily. Like, you still have to, if you're going to be committed and in this relationship, you should be showing up in that relationship as well. So,
Yeah.
you know, I don't know, at some point, I think it's like, would have to be enough is enough for his own safety, because we've talked about it before. When you're around a vibration, you're going to align to that, and if he's not aware of that, like, he's going to get kind of brought down into that vibration, and he already kind of is already.
Like you had said in the last one, you're like, things like that are going to start showing up. It's the universe telling you this isn't right. They're having a lot of contrast, and your external reality is always reflecting your internal reality. So if all of those awful things are happening on the outside, these people are really in a lack vibration. So something is very wrong there. And he said that she had gone to therapy like 2 times. The fact that she stopped, for me, I would be like, either you have to keep on going to therapy and we need to figure this out together, or we can go as a couple, or that's it for me, because you don't want your child around that either.
Yeah. She has to show some sort of commitment to like healing, or like showing that she's trying. Like, she's not in any area showing that she's trying. He is kind of the pillar of strength, which I see an important factor for the masculine energy, but it can't be the
whole relationship. Yep. Agreed. And it's really terrible for the child to be around that kind of energy too.
And that's children, or babies, I should say, infants, the only thing they have to rely on is energy. They don't know the language yet. They don't know. So they pick up on energy. And so if that's the energy that they're in, like, that is what they're going to grow up around.
I would not be surprised if that is where the health issues in the baby are stemming from too.
Absolutely. All right. So next we have 26-year-old male, confessed my greatest fear to my girlfriend, 24-year-old female, and she didn't like my answer. Recently, my 26-year-old male and my girlfriend, 24-year-old female, have been working on some premarital pre-engagement exercises to prepare us for our seemingly inevitable engagement and marriage. So one of the questions that popped up for us in a book was, what is your greatest fear? And she was supposed to guess what my greatest fear was. She guessed losing me, or her dying, and then laughed and said, what is your biggest fear? We've never talked about this. So I replied, I think my biggest fear is being perceived as a bad man. And the later, I want to be a good man. She didn't like this answer, since she said that she should be the most important part of my life, and her safety should be my biggest fear. Granted, I fear for her safety. I've done things like pushed her to get pepper spray. We've looked into getting CCLs.
I think that's like a certification to like carry a gun or something like that.
Yeah, I think so too. I'm just like, I don't know how to. Okay. I also asked her when she gets places. She accused me of being egotistical and prideful when I explained that the fear doesn't come from a place of egotism, rather my character. She didn't really care. She said, why would I want to be with a man whose biggest fear is not the safety of his family and loved ones? The result was a rather large fight between us about how I am her biggest priority, because her biggest fear is my death, whereas she is not my biggest priority, because that's not my biggest fear. Now she's threatening to kick me out and break up. How do I reconcile this? Where do I go from here? As an update, I had a conversation with her about the situation again and tried my best to share my heart behind the fear. I stated that the fear came from a place of wanting to measure up to what I thought a good father, husband, friend, and leader would be. My fear is that I wouldn't measure up to that and be seen as a bad man. I'd say the reaction was mixed. While she did admit that it shed a different light on the issue, she never really admitted that she was wrong in judging my fears. Her response seemed fairly adversarial, as she stated that anyone would be hurt by being told their partner's greatest fear isn't their loss.
I think that she is immature. I think that she's not allowing him to be his own individual self. And I think that his answer was actually a very masculine answer. And she probably wants like a more codependent relationship.
Yeah. I was going to say it's a very like codependent expectation. And also, I feel like she must be coming from an unworthy place because she wants this person. She wants to be this person's everything.
Yeah. And that's not healthy.
Mm-hmm.
In reality, she doesn't want to be. Trust me, if you're somebody's everything, you're like, oh my God, please let me live.
It's admirable to have a man be like, you know, I want to be a good leader, friend, husband, father, all of it.
Yeah.
It's kind of all encompassing. It doesn't, it's kind of a similar thing, but it's not just about her.
Yeah.
Like he wants to show up. He wants to show up for these people in his life. And I think that is super like masculine and healthy and a reasonable fear. Like he was having an authentic conversation with her and like sharing a true thing from his heart, and to be like criticized and rejected off the bat for not a good reason at all is just, it is immature. And just,
and then telling him like he should move out and they should break up over it, like it's not only immature, it's manipulative, it's gaslighting, like it's not fair to him at all. Also, a little red flag I noticed in there was our seemingly inevitable engagement and marriage. So they're not even engaged yet and they're getting ready, they're doing premarital work together. He feels trapped, I think.
Yeah. She must be like trying to move it really quickly. I feel like a lot of women like put pressure on the man, like I want to get married, and maybe it's like way too soon, and she's like pushing it, and like I think it's kind of weird that they're like, I don't know. It is probably a lot overwhelming.
Yes. Also, I think of the 4 agreements. And 1 is don't take anything personally, and 2 is like don't make assumptions. I think that people in her situation could deeply benefit from reading that, because it seems that she's really focused externally rather than focusing internally, and she's taking everything personally and like thinking that everything should be about her.
And when you have very specific expectations from someone, you're going to get let down every single time. No one else is you, and no one else is going to think exactly as you think or going to be exactly how you want them to be. Like there has to be room for that person to be their own human being.
Yes. And I think that if you truly want a healthy relationship, you have to be unconditionally loving. And that means allowing that person to have their own answers, their own fears, their own doubts, their own opinions, to be themselves. You have to
see themselves within the answers that they give you. Like that may not have been the answer she wanted to hear, but to listen to that, and you can see him deeper by getting to know him further. Like I think that could have gone so differently. Yeah,
definitely. Also, it was interesting that her biggest fear was having him die. Was that what it was?
Yeah, because she wanted it to be, she wanted his to be the same as his.
So that's not really healthy either. 1, you attract what you fear, but 2, it just sounds like he is so the center of her universe, and like she's not an independent, healthy person. She's so focused on him.
And like, yes, like we'll all die, but having your biggest fear be about something that happens to someone else, it's just kind of weird. Like obviously if that happened, that would be horrible, but
I feel like when I think about it, like if I were to be asked what is your biggest fear, I guess I could maybe see it being about my child. I guess
that makes
more sense. Yeah, I couldn't see it being external other than that. If it weren't about, you know, that in some way, then it would be like drowning or like failing, you know, like it would be something like that. It wouldn't be like I'm worried that this person is going to die. I can't spend my energy on that.
Yeah, same. I agree.
It's not a good place to put it.
Well, hopefully they didn't get married.
I know. Yeah. Well, so all of these are posted within the last couple of days.
Oh, really? That's fun. I like to go out on the internet and like to reach out to people like asking for help, like the way you must feel, the way this person must be making you feel is like,
yeah, and this is all anonymous too.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like you are secretly reaching out for help from strangers because that's where you're at. I, 26 female, realized something horrible about my boyfriend, 26 male's family and my past. Do I tell him?
This sounds like a novel. Like it sounds like an
yeah, like it's about to be a book.
Yeah.
It kind of is. So I, 26 female, have been with my boyfriend, 26 male, for a little over 2 years now. We met when he came into the coffee shop I worked at, and we hit it off. We were both estranged from our families, so we more or less never discussed each other's past or home lives at all. I did share details about my past, that being that I worked as a stripper to pay for college since financial aids weren't enough and my parents gave me no support. He knew and said that he was okay with it. Recently, his mother was diagnosed with cancer, and she reached out and begged him to visit her at least once. I advised him to go and see her, even if only for a short while. He said okay, but that he wanted me there for support. We flew over and decided to stay at a hotel and visit his family the next day. It was the same city that I went to college in. We got there the next afternoon, and as soon as I saw the house, my heart sank. I had been there before. Thankfully, his mother and father were alone at the house, but as soon as I saw him, I went pale. Looking at the family portraits didn't help either. You see, back when I was a stripper, I had been invited to dance at a bachelor party. It was a small big gig, but with a lot of money since the groom was really rich. The groom-to-be, as I now know, was my boyfriend's brother, 29 male. He was there with his father, uncle, grandfather, and some other friends. I made a lot of money that day because these people were filthy rich and throwing money at my feet. But as I was leaving, the groom pulled me aside and offered me $5,000 if I agreed to spend the night with him. At first, I refused, but when he increased it to $10,000, I couldn't say no. I was broke, I had rent due, and I was struggling in college. I agreed thinking it would just be us. No. Later, I found out his whole family wanted to join in. His father, uncle, and even his grandfather. I tried to back out, but I guess these people really liked me or had too much money to spare or something because the amount offered went up to $30,000. I hate myself for agreeing to this day, but I did agree, and I slept with all 4 of them that night. I left as soon as I had finished them all and gotten paid. I had never felt so disgusted with myself. I was honestly shocked to find out that the check was real. It was the only time I had agreed to something like that, and only because the pay had been so good and I was so desperate. No one had mentioned a younger brother that night, and my boyfriend was basically in no contact with his family for the past 7 years or so. So I never knew anything of them until now. I had left the city. It was where my college was, not my hometown, and never looked back. Now, I don't know what to do. It's been a week since we visited his mother, and they have slowly started talking again, which means I'll probably see all of those men again, and I have no idea what to do. I love him, and I don't want to lose him. I'm not sure if the men remember me or not. At least his dad didn't give me any indication that he recognized me. Please, I need help. Do I tell my boyfriend?
Oh my God.
The level of spice.
What are the chances though that like what?
Isn't that crazy? Like what a strange sequence of events. Unfortunate events. Like what are the chances?
Literally. I don't know if there's like I'm curious what the universe's reasoning is for that. Like
I do too. Yeah, me too. Me too. To answer her question, I would say she needs to tell her boyfriend. Mm-hmm. I think if he was already estranged from his family and he truly loves her, he's going to stay with her and he's going to not want to talk. He's going to be disgusted with them. Mm-hmm. 2, I think that his mom having cancer is probably intertwined with the energy of her husband being like that because we don't know if his uncle or grandpa is in a relationship, but probably. And his dad for sure was, and his brother was getting married, and they all slept with some stripper. Mm-hmm. That is disgusting. Yeah. And the same one at that. That is absolutely
Yeah,
Like I
together.
can't not. That is absolutely despicable, disgusting, horrible.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not surprised that these people have health issues. How awful. And she, I'm sure, like, obviously she said she hated herself for it. She still does. Like, she probably feels horrible about it. Um, at least she has that, like, moral compass. Like, she knew it wasn't a good thing to do, but she did it out of, like, desperation and lack, which
Mm-hmm.
is sad, but it does happen to a lot of women, a
Yeah.
lot of people in general.
Mm-hmm.
We act out of our emotions, and if we're feeling that way, we make bad decisions, and it's unfortunate that that was in her past and that this is the person that she just so happened to be with.
Mm-hmm. And it's good to hear that he hasn't spoken with his family, because that means that, they're not a vibrational match, that stuff happened for him to separate from them. And he obviously, hopefully, doesn't have any of those qualities. But I don't see a world where she can coexist with them in her life. So if he continues to not be around them, maybe, but
Yeah.
I don't see where they could all coexist with that having happened. I agree. I think that needs to be put out there, because it's going to come up down the road at some point, no matter what I think, or it's going to eat her alive and she's going to manifest, or, I think create disease in her body because she's harboring that. She's going to feel so guilty.
There is no way that she can be around those people and be okay.
Yeah.
Like, there is no way.
Yeah. But even if she didn't tell her boyfriend, like, she's still going to harbor that forever until she does. So I think that she needs to tell him, and then whatever's meant to be will be. But she can't be around that family. No. There's no way.
And I think that the only way she could even stay with him is, like, one, obviously he'd have to accept that about her. And two, he couldn't ever bring her around his family and probably really shouldn't be associating with them at all. But even that said, I think she's probably afraid to tell him because she's going to be rejected. But also, I don't know that I could be with somebody whose family did that.
Yeah, I agree.
However,
I probably wouldn't, but I think that it's also important to not blame people for their families. Doings. But in that situation, like, I don't think I could even be with the person. Like,
well, it's just because, like, then I would know that was his family, and, like, I don't know, the association for me would, like, freak me out so badly. I think that I would be like, oh my God, even if he doesn't associate with them, it would still be like a weird thing that, like, you're gonna marry somebody whose dad and grandpa and uncle and brother you slept with. Like, I don't know.
And, like, from the man's perspective, like, she, with not on purpose, like, you don't even know each other or anything, but, like, she did sleep with your whole family
in one night. That's kind
of weird. I mean, not like judging her in any way, but just, like, having that be a thing,
having that knowledge. Like,
I don't know, but I think no matter what, it needs to be out there.
Yeah. And I really do think that everything happens for a reason. So, like, there was some strange reason that all happened in that order. Yeah. I also think that she could learn a lot of self-love and self-acceptance from being honest and just accepting if he doesn't want to be with her after that. That's just what's meant to be, and it doesn't make her unlovable or anything like that, but just that it's not meant to be.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Poor girl. That's rough. That's really rough to go through all that.
Yeah. I can't believe, like, just how that played out. Can't believe that's real life.
I know. Isn't that crazy? That was only 5 hours ago. I can't wait to see what happened. Thanks for listening. Let us know if you guys want us to do another episode like this. I thought it was really fun. There are also so many other topics to do this with or just talk about on Reddit that we would love to talk about, or on other platforms as well. So let us know what you think. If you want to hear more, this will be in 2 episodes, so there is a part 2 to this, so watch for that. As always, we love you. Make sure that you are aligned before you make any decisions.
Absolutely. I would love to at some point, open this up to you guys and, like, have this be a conversation with you and what you would like advice on. I'm sure we can find a way to do that anonymously, because I'm sure you guys would prefer that. But anyways, I think that this is the start of something really interesting, and I hope it was valuable and entertaining for you guys. And we really do love you so much, and we'll see you in the part 2.